Even today, I often ask myself, was it all real, or just a dream? But whenever I sit down and speak to myself in silence, every moment comes alive before my eyes. The small village, the sun-warmed dusty path, and me, a little girl who saw the world with wide, wondering eyes. That day was one of those days in my life when everything felt ordinary. Yet deep inside my heart there was a strange restlessness. I would sit in the courtyard, rolling tiny stones between my hands, wondering how big the world was and where I stood within it. Mother would call me, but instead of hearing her voice, I would drift deeper into my own thoughts. I remember hearing my first secret in that very courtyard, a soft whisper carried by the wind, as if a story had slipped gently into my ears. I immediately touched the ground with my small hands and felt that everything, every leaf, every speck of dust, every ray of light, was close to me, as though all of them were ready to listen. And then I spoke. I want to know everything. I want to understand everything. That moment, that silence, still lives within my soul. Sometimes, in the darkness of night, I look back toward my old courtyard and feel that the little girl from my childhood still lives inside me. Quiet, hopeful, and always ready to discover something new. When the morning light touched the window pane, I would always sit beside my small wooden cabinet. That cabinet, stacked with my childhood books, a few broken toys, and a collection of colorful stones, was like a tiny world for me. Every little thing held a hidden story, and remembering them always made me smile. I still remember the first time I raced with my friend, Saba, across the open fields outside our village. That day, the scent of the wind, the smell of the crops, the warmth of the sun, everything felt so fresh and new. I would run behind Saba, my heart beat so loud and fast that it felt as if the whole village could hear it. We would laugh at each other's laughter, and I kept wondering how big the world was, and how small we were in it. But that tiny moment, that bright laughter, has stayed with me forever. Even today, I sometimes sit and remember the things my old friends used to say. Saba's smiling face, her mischievous words, and sometimes her quiet moments. All of it is safely stored in my heart. And I realize that the small moments in our lives, the ones that seem ordinary, are actually our most precious treasures. Then I sit beside my cabinet and pick up a tiny stone, the same stone I found with Saba in that field. Looking at it brings my childhood world back to life, and I can't help but smile. Those days still live inside me, as if I am still that little girl trying to understand every secret the world holds. That day still lives in my memory like a layer of fog, unclear, yet deeply felt. I must have been 8 or 9 years old when, for the first time, my heartbeat surprised me. Under a small tree at the edge of the village, I saw a boy, his face blurred in my memory, but there was a strange light in his eyes. I looked at him, and inside me a quiet peace spread, as if someone had suddenly understood all the stories I carried within. I said nothing, yet something inside stirred. That day taught me that sometimes the heart speaks without using a single word. I still remember the moment I came back home and Mother asked, "Did something happen?" I only nodded, but inside something felt incomplete. A tiny secret, one I myself could not fully understand. That night, when I sat on the roof and looked at the stars, a question kept circling in my mind. Did it really happen? Or was it just a story my imagination created? Even today, I sometimes speak to myself about it. That small heartbeat, that first wonder, that tiny spark of affection, all of it is still safe inside me. I smile and think that these little moments, the ones that once make us restless, are actually the most precious gifts of life. And perhaps that is why I still live with these memories, quietly, gently, telling my heart its own stories. Even today, I often remember sitting under that old mango tree. It was the biggest shade in our village, and beneath it I would build my own little world. Tiny joys, a few dreams, and sometimes small pockets of sadness. That day was no different. I held an old book in my hands and slowly read every word on its pages. The rustling leaves, carried by the wind, felt like they were becoming part of my story. Sometimes I would pause, think for a moment, and then quietly smile, as if some hidden thought inside me had brought me unexpected happiness. I remember that Saba came there too. We sat together under the mango tree and shared our little stories. She told me about her dreams, and I told her about mine. We spent that day as if the world had no demands from us. Sometimes we fell silent and simply listened to the wind passing through the leaves. Even now, I feel that those silent moments were the most precious, because they allowed us to simply be ourselves. At night, when I returned home and looked at my hands in the moonlight, I felt that these small moments, the ones that seem ordinary and simple, are the true foundation of our memories. And even today, I sometimes sit quietly with those memories and speak to the little girl inside me, the one who dreamed small dreams, yet carried such big hopes. Even today, I often speak to myself and look into the depths of my own heart. That day brought the first deep secret of my life. I was probably 10 years old, sitting beside a small spring at the edge of our village. The coolness of the water, the soft sound of the stones, and the gentle breeze. Everything felt so real that I wished the moment would last forever. And then I saw it. An old piece of paper, slightly faded by the sunlight, dropped by someone. I picked it up and began to read. The words were so unusual, so different, that it felt as if someone was speaking directly to my soul. I hid it carefully and whispered to myself, "This secret belongs only to me." That tiny secret taught me something. That sometimes it is necessary to keep certain things only in the heart, no matter how important they may feel. I still remember that moment because it widened the inner world inside me. I would talk to myself and wonder if I would ever share it with anyone or not. That night, sitting in the moonlight, I realized that small secrets, small dreams, and small joys are the most precious parts of life. That day, that paper, that secret, all of it still lives inside my heart. I smile softly and tell myself, "This is yours, and it will always remain yours." I still remember the first time I truly got a chance to open my heart to someone. It wasn't like laughing with Saba over some ordinary moment. It was a moment that quietly stayed safe inside my heart. That day, Saba and I were sitting by the river, on the stones. Tiny insects flew in the soft sunlight, and a faint breeze carried a scent that reminded me of childhood. Saba had a small notebook in her hand, the one where we wrote our stories. We began writing together, and I realized that for the first time, I was sharing my little dreams with someone. I looked at Saba and saw the same light in her eyes that I had once felt inside myself. A strange peace settled in my heart. I quietly thought that the greatest joys in life are often hidden in the smallest moments. That night, when I returned home and sat on the roof, I sank into the sea of my memories. Those little moments, which stayed with me, always remind me how precious friendship and the quiet love within it can be. I smiled and thought that all these little moments are truly life's greatest gifts. I still remember the first time I had to test the courage of my little heart. That day felt like a real test for me. The old classroom walls, the marks of wooden chairs, and the teacher's serious gaze. All of it felt so overwhelming that my heart was racing. I held my small notebook in my hands and told myself, "You can do this." For the first time, I began reading my little lesson aloud. Sometimes the words faltered, sometimes they stumbled a little, but I didn't stop. The little girl inside me, who carried small dreams and big hopes, gave me the courage to continue. I still remember that moment when the whole class went quiet and listened to my voice. I realized that even the smallest steps can bring great joy to the heart. And when the teacher nodded and smiled, saying, "Very good, you've worked hard," a tiny feeling of victory bloomed in my heart. That night, sitting on the roof under the moonlight, I thought about how life's greatest lessons are never in the grand gestures, but hidden in small moments and tiny acts of courage. Even today, I sometimes speak to my heart, reminding myself that every small step we take brings us closer to our biggest dreams. Even today, I often remember the day I kept my very first little secret in my heart. It wasn't a big secret, yet for me, it felt like the most important thing in the world. I was sitting in the old village garden, where the scent of flowers floated in the air. I twirled small stones in my hands and began thinking that some things are meant to be kept only in the heart. I shared a tiny part of this secret with Saba, but the rest remained quietly with me. That moment still teaches me that in life, little secrets and small moments make us stronger within. I realized that secrets sometimes give us the chance to talk to ourselves, to listen to our hearts, to gather courage, and to understand our dreams. At night, when I sat on the roof, listening to the gentle breeze and the whispers of my own heart, I felt that all these small moments, all these little secrets, are actually the greatest strength in our lives. And I would smile, knowing that the little secret still lives in my heart, just as the little girl from my childhood still lives within me. Some days in life come when you wish they would never arrive. Yet they do, quietly, slowly, like a gust of wind you cannot stop. I must have been 11 years old when the pain of separation first knocked on my heart. It was the day Saba had to go to her relative's village for a few months. It was early morning. The sun had not fully risen, and the air carried a strange chill. I stood in front of her house, clutching my small notebook in my hands, the one where we had written stories together. Saba smiled and said, "I'll come back soon, don't worry." But I knew, what does soon mean in childhood? Sometimes it means months, sometimes seasons. I only nodded and said nothing. Inside me was a dry, quiet emptiness, as if tears were trapped but couldn't fall. Saba squeezed my hand and gave me that same little laugh that always strengthened my heart. Yet that day, her laughter carried a hint of sadness. The vehicle moved slowly, drifting away, and I was left standing alone on the village path. Dust particles floated in the air, as if time itself had stopped. I opened my notebook and traced my fingers across the pages, the very pages we had filled together. That night, I sat on the roof for a long time. The village scene changed slightly in the moonlight, but the sadness in my heart did not. I whispered to my heart, "Perhaps this is the first lesson of separation. People leave, but memories never do." Even today, when I remember that moment, a soft wave rises in my heart, not of pain, but of those memories that stayed with me, teaching me that the heart is never truly empty. It always keeps something safe inside. Time is strange. It can change us in a single moment, and yet keep us exactly the same. A few weeks had passed since Saba left, but my heart stayed stuck, right there on the path from which she had gone. Yet during those days, I began to look within myself for the first time. Behind the village was a small hill where I often sat and spoke with the wind. That place had always brought me peace, but that day felt different. The air was quieter, the sky more open, and I felt as if I were truly listening to myself for the very first time. I pressed my feet into the sand, looked at the sky, and asked in my heart, "What do I really want? What do I want to become?" Perhaps every child faces this question at some point, but that day, it changed me a little. I closed my eyes and felt the small, hidden strength inside me, the same strength that had been with me since the very first day, when I played with stones, built my world with little words, and turned the whispers of the wind into stories. For the first time, I realized I was not alone. I carried a little friend within myself, the girl who thinks, questions, laughs, and sometimes cries, but she always stays with me. That evening, when I returned home, my heart felt lighter than before. It was as if I had truly seen myself for the first time. I opened my notebook and stared at the blank page for a long while. Then I slowly wrote, "Today I met myself for the first time." That sentence remains one of the most important in my life, because when a person truly recognizes themselves, everything else becomes easier. Life never stays the same. Some days pass in sadness, and then suddenly, a moment arrives that washes away all that sorrow. For me, that moment came when, after many weeks, I heard that Saba was returning. It was an ordinary morning, yet the air carried a special scent, as if someone had lightly awakened my heart. I was sitting in the courtyard, spinning stones, when Mother called out, "Saba is back." My heart seemed to leap. I left the stone where it was and ran to the corner of the street. There, in the morning light wrapped in dust, I saw Saba. She was the same laughter, same sparkling eyes. But this time, there was something else in her eyes. Perhaps a little travel, a little experience, and many untold stories. We stood silently in front of each other for a few moments. I said nothing, and neither did she. But our hearts spoke. Then it happened. We laughed. A laugh that cleanses everything inside, like water flowing through the heart. Saba said, "I missed you so much." And I replied softly, "I did too." We walked together along the old village paths, the same paths that had seemed empty for weeks, but today felt whole again. We shared stories, revealed a few secrets, and kept some quietly to ourselves. That evening, as I stood on the roof, the breeze carried the scent of that day. I looked at the sky and thought, people come and go, but those who belong to you always find a way to return. That day, I realized that hope can never truly die. It only becomes quiet, and then, with some light, it comes back again. Even today, I often walk through the lanes of my village, but now, they are filled not just with my footsteps, but with my memories as well. Every corner, every tree, every little path carries a story within it, and I find myself alive again and again within those stories. After Saba's return, life once again filled with the colors that had faded for a while. We reopened our notebook and began filling its blank pages with new stories. But this time, something inside me had changed, a quiet strength, perhaps born from all the small tests of childhood. One day, I sat under the old mango tree, the same tree where I had first seen the world with eager eyes. I looked at my hands, now slightly grown, and listened to my heartbeat, which had become a little wiser. And I softly asked the little girl inside me, "Are we ready to move forward, to explore new paths?" The heart answered, quietly, yet with complete certainty, "Yes, we are ready." I smiled. The same small smile that had once begun with little stones, little dreams, and little secrets, now grown into a whole story inside me. That night, I stood on the roof, the wind playing through my hair, and the sky wide open above. I closed my eyes and remembered all those moments. The boy I saw for the first time, the secret I found by the spring, the first friendship, the first separation, and the first meeting with myself. And then I whispered in my heart, "This story isn't over. It's just the beginning." Today, I am telling all of this to you, years later, standing in the haze of time, but every word, every memory, lives inside my heart. I am still the girl who sat in the courtyard spinning stones. But now I know who I am, what I want, and where life can take me. My story doesn't end. It just keeps moving forward. In the gentle breeze, in the fragrance of memories, and in the heartbeat of my heart.